Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a fun project for you today. Let's take a look at this quilt behind me. Isn't this great? You know what? I love this fabric. This has such a peaceful feel to it. It's just, it feels homey, makes me want to wrap up in it. It's really cool. It's actually, the line is called Cashmere, and it's by Rosemary Lavin for Wyndham. And so it's just a great line of fabrics. We're calling this the Dizzy Daisy because this block right here has a sort of flower look to it, and they're just kind of off kilter a little bit, and it's just fun to do. I can't wait to show you how to do this. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is one packet of 10-inch squares, and again, we've used that nice cashmere line. You're going to need your background for all of this, all the squares, all the sashing, everything is 4 1/4 yards. Your outer border out here, this is a 5 1/2-inch border, and you are going to need 1 3/4 yards, and that includes your little sashing cornerstones that we've used in here. So, and it's just great. It makes a quilt that's 80 by 90, so it's a great size and just goes together so quick. So let me show you how to do this. So to make this quilt, what you're going to do is you're going to take your 10-inch square and you're going to cut it into 4 5-inch pieces, which also means that you could use charm packs as well. I just decided to use this 10-inch square. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to cut this into 4 5-inch pieces like this, and I'm just going to lay my good 5-inch ruler along the edge because I know that it's exactly 5 inches, and we are just going to cut this into 4 5-inch pieces just like this. So now for the to corner your square, you're going to need 2 1/2-inch strips. And so we cut this out of our backing, our 2 1/2-inch strips. The easiest and quickest way to get your squares cut is to leave your strip. You know, you cut your 2 1/2-inch strip off your big piece, leave it folded in half and in half again like this. That's only 4 layers. That's pretty easy for the rotary blade to come through. I'm going to lay my selvage up here off this side and trim it off. And so we'll be done with that. And then you're just going to cut your 2 1/2-inch squares like this. So you'll just go along and cut them. But you're going to get 4 every time you make a cut. So you'll do that to your strips. You're going to need 12 of these for each block. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 1/2-inch squares and we're going to border 3 sides of this 5-inch block. And I'm going to lay them on here like this. Now, if you want, and I promise now, this is something, because we're sewing diagonally across them, by the end of this quilt, you are going to be amazing at this. You're going to be so perfect at this, you're not even going to need to draw the line or fold the line. But for the sake of showing you, I'm going to finger press a line in here because I have now done so many of these that I can actually zoom from one corner to the other without even drawing the line. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on these 3 corners, one right after the other like this. Because they don't overlap, we can lay them all on and just sew down them. Now I want to be sure that you can see this. So we're sewing corner to corner here, corner to corner here, and then corner to corner here. All right, so 3 sides, and we're just going to go around the whole thing like that. So let's go to the sewing machine and do that. And I'm just going to lay this under here and sew corner to corner. And so this is a really fast block to make because it just goes from one, and then we're just going to flip it and go down the next one like this and come down the last one. All right. Once we have our block sewn like that, see how we've got that sewn around? You might be able to see the little stitch line easier this way. But once we've got that done, we're going to trim off these corners like this. And then we're going to press it back. I'm just going to drop this over here. Actually, I have a drawer down there that everything falls in. Everybody's like, do you really throw all that stuff on the floor? I'm like, no, I really don't. So once you get it all pressed, this is your block. This is the little block that we're going for, and we're looking for that, and you're going to do that to all 4 of yours. And I actually have mine done over here. I did them earlier so I could show you how this goes together. So now when you put your block together, these are going to kind of rotate around in a circle. So how this flat edge here is going this way, the next one's going to point down like this. And then the next one's going to point across. And then this one's going to point up like this. So, oh, no, wait. This one has to go this way. There we go. There we go. So see how they're kind of going this way, this way, this way, and this way. And now we're going to sew this together just like a 4-patch. And so we're going to put this one on this side and this one on this side. And don't forget, this is the side we're sewing on right here. And so I'm going to line these up and head over to the sewing machine. I'll sew them one after the other. That's called chain piecing. So there's that one, and now here's this one. And there isn't a ton to match up on these. By sewing across this stitch line, it makes your points a little more blunt, which is what you want for this block. So now I'm going to open these up, and I'm going to open these up, and I'm going to make sure that I've got them going the right direction. They're chasing each other around the circle. I'm going to put these two together, and then I'm just going to match that center seam. So I'm going to line up my first edge, take a few stitches to anchor it in there, and I leave my needle down. My needle is down in the fabric. Then I'm going to match up my center, and then I can just sew to the center. Make sure your seams are going opposite directions. So I have one seam going this way and the other seam going that way, and that will make it lay a little flatter. And then once I get to that center seam, I'm just going to again stop and line up the last little bit right there. All right, now let's take a look at our finished block. That looks pretty cool. Now, a lot of times I will finish a block and I will do the tutorial and we'll put it up on YouTube, and somebody will put an awesome idea in the comments, and I'll think, why didn't I think of that? So be sure and read through the comments, because sometimes somebody will come up with just an easier way. When I finished this block, this quilt, I thought if I had put like a yellow in the center right here, that would have made it it would have made it look like a flower center. And so, you know, don't be afraid to change these up and try them a little bit and see what happens. So once you get your block done, and this is the block we're looking for, I would actually set that close to your sewing machine and use it as a pattern for your other pieces, because I get turned around and you really do want them going the same direction. So let's take a look at this quilt behind me. So you can see here, it's put together in rows like this. There are 6 in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had to count to be sure. I was pretty sure, but I had to count. So there's 6 in each row. In between each block is this sashing strip. So when you go to put a row together, you're going to cut your sashing strips the same length your block is. Now, if I'm going to do a whole quilt, because I'm like I'm a sewer who does the same thing, you know, 20 times to make sure I don't make a mistake, I will put all my sashings on the right-hand side of my block. And then I'm going to sew a row together. So if you're going to add your sashing, you're just going to sew it onto this edge right here. And we are just going to attach this. So a 1/4 inch right down the side. And I just do this to almost my whole row, because you don't really want to put them on your end piece down here at the end, because that's going to have a border strip around it, so you don't need a sashing strip right there. So then you're just going to press that back, and you're going to add another block to it, you know, that you've put a strip on here, and you're just going to do that for your whole row. For your next row, you're going to go ahead and pull in the same size sashing strip, because it's still on the same size as your block, but you're going to put a 2.5 inch cornerstone in there. So whatever size your sashing strip is, that's the size of your cornerstone. So this is 2.5 by the width of your block, and this square is 2.5. And you're going to sew these together in one long row. So I have a little row right here done. So see how that goes? So you're going to have your row all done, then you can put your sashing row. Then you're going to put another row in your sashing row. So this has 7 rows, 6 across. And again, it makes a pretty good size quilt. Let me see how big that is. 80 by 90. So that's a pretty good size quilt. Now, if you want to back a quilt this large with 45-inch fabrics, it's going to take you 7.5 yards. And we have used this great print on the back. Isn't that a beautiful print? I just love that. Let me make sure you can see this really good. And we're calling it the Dizzy Daisy because it's a little flower, but a little bit wonky, a little bit dizzy. And we even quilted it with a daisy pattern. So that's kind of fun too. So we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Dizzy Daisy from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.